Hey, what's going on people? It's SGZ here from the Spartan Game Zone, and in this video we'll be counting down the top 10 worst legendary weapons in Borderlands 3. Sometimes legendaries just aren't legendary, and although they can look pretty lying on the ground, they might not perform well in your hands. So today I'm going to reveal which guns have that legendary coat painted on. These are the fake orange gold no one wants to pick up, and I'll be telling you what makes them so bad and why they should be downgraded. And do let me know in the comments what legendary you think doesn't deserve to hold that title. I'll also be letting you know where you can get them if you're after a challenge. We'll be rating them obviously based on their badness, but also your likelihood to find them, as a bad gun you see often is worse than one you don't. I've got a big week of content planned for next week with the Director's Cut add-on. I'm going to be all over that like sand in your gym shorts, so make sure to stay tuned and hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss it. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed this one, and let's crack into it. We open this countdown of the top 10 worst legendary weapons in Borderlands 3 with the Hellfire, an incendiary only SMG that can only be found by defeating Jabba Maguire, who you fight around here in Voracious Canopy. The Hellfire is a gun that has forgotten not only how to deal damage, but what it even is. It has appeared in every single Borderlands game, part of the Maliwan arsenal up until now, where it's been made by Dahl. In the original game it spawned with the flavor text "We don't need no water," and then in Borderlands 2 with "We don't need no fire," but now it's "We don't need no something." It's clearly forgotten who it is, what it's doing, and quite frankly I think it needs to be admitted to a rest home, but hey, I'm no barista. It's a cool gun that fires molten balls of magma that explode on impact. That splash damage factor and its accuracy give it cause to become a better boomer, but it's a long way off and doesn't do any type of damage against anything but flesh, where it at least does something. Next up is the Frozen Devil, a Maliwan pistol from DLC 3 that always comes in cryo and can only be dropped by Kukuwajak. You fight around here in Nagal in the Shire. The Frozen Devil fires ice cold beams of water that cool off your opponents, making them feel all refreshed. That's the opposite of what you want, but it does have a secondary mode where you can fire ice spikes at your enemies, which can deal some damage on the odd occasion. It turns out that pummeling your enemies with ice from your freezer isn't the best method if you want to deal some damage. If anything, the Frozen Devil should be great at freezing targets, what with its huge cryo efficiency, but any other cryo weapon that deals half decent damage will have it beat, especially multi-palleted weapons. Now for the TK's Wave, the worst version of the tidal wave that can come in non-elemental shock or fire and has an increased chance to drop from dump truck. You can find around here in the droughts as part of the quest Dump on Dump Truck. The TK's Wave is a Jacobs shotgun that fires 6 or 8 pellets which flow through the air like a wave breaching the shore. Like a beach, they take up quite a lot of real estate, but will ricochet off world surfaces. The projectiles move slower than a sloth riding a snail, allowing your enemies to dodge them easily, and if that barrel isn't right in their face, you'll be lucky if half the projectiles land. It really isn't suited to small targets, enemies with big health bars, or anything that moves, and can't really do that much damage when they don't, which makes it not very good. At number 7 is the Crossroad, an elemental Hyperion SMG that has an increased chance to drop from Big Donny. You fight around here in the Splinterlands. The Crossroad fires 3 shots in a 6-round burst and consumes 2 ammo per shot. That, combined with its large magazine and pure elemental energy, makes for a unique weapon. Certainly awesome on paper, but I'm afraid that was stripped from us long ago. Compare the damage of what the Crossroad does now to something like the Plasma Coil, and it's shameful. To have a former top weapon of the game fall from such heights and still yet to have recovered is disappointing to say the least. You would have to go back about 18 months to see it at its peak, to the time just before its pallet was taken from it, something it couldn't live without. That's got to hurt, and it certainly crushed its damage potential, although now it needs much more than that. I'm a big fan of the Crossroad, been praying for a buff for a while. and I hope it gets one, that and the health bar. On to the NARP now, another DLC 3 weapon. This one's a Hyperion sniper rifle that can come in any element and can only be dropped by Haddon Ma, that you can find around here in Ashfall Peaks. The NARP is a gun that looks suspiciously like the Woodblocker, which should warn you enough, and rightly so. It's your classic low damage semi-automatic sniper rifle, forcing you to continue tapping that trigger if you want to see any type of damage. It is a bad gun, but it's a gun that at least tries, with its unique effect that serves to increase its DPS. Whenever you prematurely reload, the remaining rounds in the mag serve to increase its fire rate, damage, accuracy, and handling. It's definitely better after doing that, but only by a little bit. Its effect also forces you to reload double the amount as usual, when you'd much rather be shooting. Halfway through, and it's the Embrace the Pain or Pain Its Power. Both are just as bad as each other, with extremely similar effects. You can find both by defeating Hot Carl. You fight around here in Devil's Razor. The Embrace the Pain and Pain Its Power are both developed by COB and can only come in fire. Their damage is on the low side with a steady fire rate and work best against flesh. The lower than average DPS does make these guns poor, but it isn't the main thing that's letting them down. They're both ticking time bombs, setting you on fire randomly or while they overheat. If your flesh is exposed, you'll quickly burn to a crisp, downing yourself with little or no warning. That's an issue with Mayhem damage scaling, knocking you out of action within a few short seconds, and makes them pretty much impossible to use. The unique effect does make for some build options, namely proccing an elemental projector artifact, that is if it wasn't so deadly, making them unusable whenever you go too far up those Mayhem levels. The Polybius is next, an elemental TDO shotgun that has an increased chance to drop from Genevieve, who you can find around here in Voracious Canopy. TDO as a whole has a problem when it comes to producing top end weapons, and when you're at the bottom of their pile, you know it's bad news for you. The Polybius fires 4 pellets per shot at a nice automatic pace, which come out in horizontal or vertical rows. There's 6 possible positions they can be placed in, and because their orientation changes, it's hard to use it anywhere but close range. That's a problem in itself, but it doesn't matter when it only tickles when every pellet lands. You can hear it fire off those rounds sounding like it's smashing through health bars when in reality they've barely made a scratch. At number 3, the Binary Operator, a melee 1 sniper exclusive to Arms Race. It can be found anywhere in the Stormblind complex, but does have an increased chance to drop from this chest. You can't get much worse than a gun that doesn't even work properly. On the card, the Binary Operator always has the number 2 in the damage column. It can deal more damage than that, but most of the time it's nothing at all. Its peak damage remains hidden. Whenever you shoot an enemy with health below that hidden number, then it'll one-shot them. That's the idea at least, but to be fair, it is bugged and doesn't scale with Mayhem levels. When you think about it though, it's not an effect that works. Why have a gun that does no damage at times and all of its damage at other times? It just doesn't make sense. There's no point to pick it over a regular sniper rifle, and that's why it's a no from me. In second place is the Creeping Death, a TDO shotgun that can only come in corrosive and can only be dropped by the Mother of Grogans you can find around here in the Anvil. The Creeping Death has the lowest DPS out of any legendary in the entire game, but it is a gun that's easy to avoid. It fires corrosive green goo straight out of the Kids' Choice Awards that splatter on your enemies, making their hands all greasy. That's pretty much all it does. That health bar doesn't even move an inch. It may be called the Creeping Death, but my word, Uncle Grim moves incredibly slowly. It consumes 2 ammo per shot with a decent magazine size, nice splash damage radius, and a good fire rate. Everything is there for this gun to become a serious weapon, especially on Moes, but it's just so unbelievably bad. I'm talking emoji movie bad. It struggles to even move health bars and is definitely a gun you should forget ever existed. Before we hit up number 1, let's cover some honorable mentions. We start with the Woodblocker, an elemental Hyperion sniper. It's pretty much the NARP, or the NARP is pretty much it, dealing less damage per shot, but it does have higher DPS. What saves the Woodblocker is its firing pattern. Bullets are fired in a 4-shot burst, giving it the potential to down your enemies with a single pull of the trigger, which is what you want in a sniper rifle, but you're always going to consume 4 times the ammo. Next up is the Jericho, a base game rocket launcher. This one can only come in radiation. I wouldn't call the Jericho bad, I'd just call it unconventional. It has the 2 firing modes, one that launches projectiles in the air which explode, raining down a barrage of smaller projectiles, and another that pelts them into the ground which explode numerous times. It is ammo hungry and very difficult to get all of its damage in a targeted area, but it is certainly unique. Lastly, we have the Rowan's Call or the Lucian's Call, thus similar assault rifles which share the same unique effect of returning bullets to your magazine on critical hits. Rowan is built by Jacobs and Lucian built by Vladoff. They're not terrible by any means, I mean they're manageable and do deal decent enough damage if you can get the right version, but these guns don't hold a candle to what they once were. At number 1 now, and who do we have here? It's Malik's Bane, a dial sniper rifle that, if you're crazy enough, can be farmed for by targeting Phoenix around here in the Splinterlands. If you're looking for a sniper rifle that one-shots mobs with ease and dishes out heavy damage against bosses, then don't pick up the Malik's Bane, don't even think about it. It can come in cryo or incendiary and is semi-automatic with one bullet dealing just over half the damage of a single Skullmasher pellet. Its red text reads "Welcome to the end," which I'd guess isn't referring to your enemies, more like yours, as you won't be able to defend yourself. You may as well be whacking them with the pool noodle. It's not even sure what it is it a shotgun or a sniper rifle? You can alter between the 2 modes, but both are equally lackluster. Believe it or not, it was buffed relatively recently, making it 25% better, but you couldn't tell while looking at it. It consumes an unnecessary 2 bullets per shot, which puts its damage at a little over 7.5k per ammo spent. Compare that to, say, the Sandhawk at 42,326.66 recurring, of course, and you can tell it's bad. The Sandhawk also fires over twice as fast. Worst thing is, this gun seems to drop a lot, always in place of what you're actually wanting, so all I can say is avoid it at all costs. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned of the top 10 worst legendary weapons in Borderlands 3, the guns that may as well not exist. If you did, consider dropping a like or subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.